But get your face seen.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Am I muted or unmuted?
Yeah, and the guests. See, Rupert's been plugged in.
So I've just muted him for a minute. Right, there's a bit of noise going on.
Okay then. So,
Okay, you're unmuted now.
That's the mayor.
Hi there, Rupert. Yes. We apologize for absence.
No, I haven't received any.
None. Okay then. I know that Peter will be joining us in this session. Right. Okay, moving on then. Declarations of interest. Anybody? We've got a big agenda. I couldn't see anything for myself. All I ask is if you notice when we get round to the agenda item and interest, please declare it at that point. Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting. So several pages of that. Are those attendant, anybody got any problems with them? No. If not, then consider that they've been pre-signed by me. That's
Just doing
yeah. So I will propose them, and then we've got Malcolm seconding them, and all those in favour. Checking hands there. Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Right. Public participation then. So we have David Inman down on our agenda here for rural markets, and I think Mark, are you talking as well?
Could I quickly make a few points as well?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
It's Robert, yeah.
Yes, Robert.
Okay then. Right, so we'll do it first. We've got David down here. So David going to talk about the Rural Market Town Group.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councillors. My name's David Inman. I'm the director of the Rural Services Network, which is the group that is looking to put the Rural Market Towns Group together. Just a very quick word about Rural Services Network. We've been around for over 20 years. That means I have as well, unfortunately. And we very much wish to do two things, which is pertinent to the Rural Market Towns Group. We wish to create more networks across rural areas. England is not the easiest place to argue the rural case, because obviously we're talking of a variety of rural areas across England, which is perhaps better known for its urban development. So we frequently find ourselves having to work very hard to present that rural case. And the Rural Services Network has been at it for 20 years. And we do think we've made inroads during that period of time and earned our crust.
I take it the town clerk will unmute me to speak.
Right, sorry, David, carry on.
Yeah. In terms of what we're looking to do, we're looking to form a series of groups to argue that rural case. And it's important that all aspects of rural are actually involved. As we all appreciate, rural market towns are the hub around which rural areas actually operate. That's where the phrase market town comes from. And it's important that they are regarded as in part of the levelling up process that the government is talking about, as well as just looking at aspects from the larger town groupings. So our view is that the rural market towns ought to come together at this particular stage to formulate and present their particular case. What we're looking to do is to try initially to bring together some 200 market towns from across the whole of England. And it's important that Northamptonshire and East Northants is involved in that particular process, because you are an important rural area. So we're looking to include as many areas as we possibly can in that process. We're very aware, Mr. Mayor, that recruiting at this particular stage is difficult, and that town councils have really difficult agendas at this moment in time because of the difficulties in terms of COVID and the needs of vulnerable people. So we're making a special offer at this particular stage. We're saying if people come in and try out our particular rural market towns group, at this stage we will let them do so for free, and then later on in the year, in May, they can decide whether they're convinced and join the group on a more proactive basis. So we're hoping that that will be attractive to your particular council at this stage, and that you can join this particular group. Our view is that unless you come together and argue the rural case, it doesn't happen naturally. Unfortunately, a lot of people in a lot of areas think that rural areas are the sort of place they'd all like to move to. But we all know that rural areas come with their own particular difficulties, that rural market towns have their particular difficulties at this stage, and we're aware of the challenge that is likely to present itself over the coming years. And so we feel that there is a need to come together to present that particular argument. So far, we have been pretty successful. We've just topped 160 towns from across England coming together. Some 80 of those have joined on a permanent basis. The other ones, as I've invited your good selves, can come in for free at this stage, join with us and test out the service. You won't find it lacking. The Rural Services Network is well known for its rural arguments, and we can guarantee that we will be successful in bringing together market towns. That we're the organisation that organises the Rural Conference. That takes place in September. There is a discounted rate for everybody to join that particular conference if they're a member of this particular group. In addition, we run 9 seminars on rural issues throughout the years. To members, those seminars are completely free. They are, like this particular occasion, conducted now by Zoom communication, and we get very significant attendances for those seminars. So you'll be presented with the program of seminars, and you could choose which one you might say would interest you and register for the seminar on that basis. The sort of charges we're talking about are more about mass joining than a significant amount. So we're talking in terms of your good town of £130 per annum to join this particular group. In this particular year, because you'd be coming into the group on proper joining in June, you'd be talking of 5/6 of that amount. So we're talking about £110. And we seek to make ourselves as affordable as we possibly can. Obviously, we've got to be solvent as well as affordable. But we do feel that it should be the sort of offer that can be fitted into most budgets. So we're hopeful that many towns will join, and in fact, perhaps as is indicated currently, we're being successful to that end.
Okay.
I'll shut up now, Mr. Mayor, and let your members ask any questions that they might wish to present to me. Thank you.
Well, we have it in an agenda item later on, but just very quickly now, going around, Val.
Are you just a forum, or do you advocate for issues, or how does it work?
We work, we have a parliamentary group, a grouping in Parliament, and we bring that grouping together to introduce items to MPs as it becomes significant. We've just had a rather important meeting with the Minister about broadband and rural broadband particularly. Right. So we are able to get MPs and ministers to those particular occasions and argue that particular case.
Thank you.
We also argued the fair share case about rural funding, and if the market towns wished to look at any aspects in relation to that, we'd certainly be happy to talk to them on that particular
David, will
situation.
you be able to stay with us until we get round to the agenda item in about half an hour or 40 minutes time?
I'm quite happy to do that if that's a benefit to you, Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Rather than run it twice here, let's
Okay.
wait until we come round to that one.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, David, so just bear with us.
Thank you.
Tony,
Yes.
can you, I can't get my picture, but I am here.
Yeah, we can see it says Peter.
Oh, you can see me.
Well,
I can't see
yeah.
you. I can't see myself, but obviously that's okay. I don't care about that.
We can't see you, but we know you're there. We can see your name.
Ah, right. Okay.
All
Fine.
right. Okay, then, Peter. Right, so just going around the other public then, we've got Mark. Did you want to talk? Emma will take you off mute in a minute.
Right.
I think, Mark, you're still on mute.
Still on mute.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry about that.
That's
So,
okay.
yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, councillors, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Mark Quigley, and I've been a resident at Warren Bridge for 32 years, and I'd like to talk to you about supporting me to resolve the flooding issue at Warren Bridge. During the presentation, which will take about 5 minutes, I'll take you through the scale of the problem, probable causes and potential solutions, and the support that I hope you feel you are able to provide. Next slide, please, Val, Anna. For those of you not familiar with the issue, 4 out of 7 properties backing onto Lyvedon Brook have been flooded. The remaining 3 have been close to being flooded. 3 of the 4 properties that have been flooded have actually been flooded twice in the last 7 years. And in the last 7 years, flooding has become a bit of an annual threat, really. Now, in 2014, Northants County Council funded a report to try and understand what the cause was, and they determined that it was surface runoff from the fields. There's not a great deal that we can do about that, but the particular issue at Warren Bridge, really my observation is that the flooding is caused by the poor removal of that excess water due to the narrow cross section of the bridge over the brook, the stone wall that runs alongside the road, a lack of maintenance of the stream, the camber of the road surface on Stoke Hill, and the drains surrounding that area. And I'll just quickly take you through each one of those with some illustrations as well. Next slide, please, Emma. So this is looking upstream from Warren Bridge itself. And as you can see on the photograph on the left, that as the volume of water increases, the bridge, it reaches the top of the arch and the bridge starts to limit the flow of water and it quickly backs up. Interestingly, several years ago, the bridge buttresses were reinforced, which narrowed the opening at the base of the bridge. In the middle photographs, you see that the water backs up in the fields just a bit upstream, and you can see how it progresses from a small amount and then quickly builds up. And at the point in the bottom picture, it actually is really flooding the gardens that are adjacent to the stream and some of the properties that back onto the stream. Eventually, the bridge and the wall that runs along the side, the stone wall that runs alongside the road, form a dam, and the water backs up until it reaches the gate, which you can see just on the right-hand side, a small gate there. Next slide, please, Emma. And what happens then really is the water flows through the gate, across the road, flooding the road, and then across into the field downstream of the bridge. And in the second photograph at the bottom there, you can see that part of the bridge and the wall has actually been collapsed. And before 1998 floods, the wall at the side of the road was intact. And actually, therefore, the water couldn't get across the road effectively, it was blocked. But eventually it built up to such a level that the force of the water pushed the wall over. And that saved a number of houses in Warren Bridge from flooding. And as also, because the bridge, the wall has not been rebuilt, that continues to save us from flooding at that point. Next slide, please, Emma. So this is looking downstream from Warren Bridge, and really to highlight the issue of the vegetation in the stream. These photographs were taken in the summer and in literally the December floods just before Christmas. And looking downstream, you can see that the vegetation is actually restricting the flow of water through the stream. Now, I've spoken to the farmer who backs onto that, I believe it's his responsibility to clear that stream. And he, despite having requests from Untitled Town Council in August 2019 and requests from Northants County Council, hasn't actually taken any action so far. I think although the bridge is the major problem, this is undoubtedly a contributor to the problem. And the same issue can be seen upstream of the bridge as well. Next slide, please, Emma. This is the drains issue on Stoke Hill and Stoke Doyle Road. The first picture on the left-hand side is actually looking from the Catholic Church, if you like, or looking up towards the Catholic Church. It's a drain that runs down the hill. And in fact, you can't see it too well in the photo, but the water actually bypasses the drain completely. It didn't used to, but since they resurfaced that stretch of road, I think they must have got the camber slightly wrong. And in fact, the water misses all the drains on that hill and goes straight the way down to the bottom of the hill. In fact, there's a drain, which is the photograph in the middle, which is just below the junction where the Catholic Church is, and that was actually pumping out water rather than taking water in. There's a photograph at the bottom, was me sitting in my car waiting for the water to actually go to clear so that I could drive through. That was in the summer of this year. It doesn't take a lot of rain for the puddle to get quite big there, and certainly in the rain that we had prior to Christmas, the road leading down to Warren Bridge from the Catholic Church and over the other side was completely impassable. Next slide, please, Emma. So I think the potential solutions are, from my observations, is short term, if we can remove the vegetation choking the stream, both upstream and downstream of Warren Bridge, that would speed through the removal of the excess water. Probably a short to medium term is to address some of the drain issues on Stoke Hill and Stoke Doyle Road to prevent water just rushing down and adding to the problem at Warren Bridge. And then long term is trying to find some solution in terms of increasing the throughput of water under or around, or maybe both, Warren Bridge itself. So the support that I'm looking for really from Untitled Town Council is, and forgive me, but I don't know what powers you have or what powers you don't have, but really to use whatever powers you have to help implement the solutions above, or help me identify other things that might alleviate the problem, to help me navigate and identify relevant bodies who have authority, funds and a mandate to implement solutions. Any useful contacts or additional information, source of information you could have that can help me. And whenever you're talking to the relevant people at Northants County Council, to raise the awareness at every opportunity of the severity of the problem and the need for mitigating action. I hope that you're able to support me. I hope you're able to feel that you can support me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you to Emma for helping me prepare for this meeting. And I look forward to hearing any questions that you may have, or Emma's got all my details if you want to ask me anything at a later date.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark. I sort of apologise for we haven't got down as an agenda item, but we've certainly taken on board what you said. I think Rupert wants to say something because he lives in Warren Bridge and he's a councillor. He needs to come off mute though.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do indeed live at number 2 Warren Bridge, and I served as a county councillor for 3 terms, And the whole Livden Brook flooding potential has exercised me for a very old time. I think I can best help this evening by pointing yourselves, Mr. Mayor, in the right direction on identifying particular relevant agencies. I would suggest that Arundel Town Council attaching copies of Les Quickley's, I forget.
Mark, it is. It's
Oh,
Mark.
sorry, my apologies.
I'm using
Mark's
Mark's
very valuable and sound work to the letter, right, to the Environment Agency, who are the nationwide agency responsible for rivers and waterways control. And also to Councillor Jason Smithers, spelled capital S-M-I-T-H-E-R-S, who coincidentally is a county councillor, and also he is the cabinet member or portfolio holder for highways on the Northamptonshire Shadow Authority, which is poised to take over the functions of the county council and of all the other district councils in the north on 1st of April.
Okay.
So if that letter goes to the pair of them, and also say to each you're writing to the other, and pointing out the problem, inviting cooperation, that should set the ball rolling.
Right. Thanks very much, Rupert. Emma, I wonder if you could do that then, if you could attach that with a note from ourselves, and please include Annabelle in the circulation.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Let's keep our county councillor.
Mark, yeah, at the moment we've gone through a lot of frustration. Just hang on a minute. David, you wanted to say something?
Well, only this, that of course, we know that the ENC Local Plan Part 2 is due to be effectively rubber stamped by ENC at the end of this month. And we also know that within that local plan is a plan to develop land around the cemetery off Stoke Doyle Road. That's going to increase the traffic using that particular stretch of road. But it does strike me that potentially lobbying for a Section 106 requirement on the developer to effect some or all of the improvements that have been talked about might be something to be looked at when a planning application finally comes through.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
It does.
So again, Emma, if it probably needs another note separately then into Richard Palmer or whoever is doing that, you know, to say that we need to have this included in the 106 requirements of that site.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, yeah, Mark, so thank you. And, you know, just based on our past record, we know that this is a painful process, you know, but you know, we have a few more additions to what you've already done.
Great. Thank you for your help, and I'll keep you informed what happens.
Cheers.
And Mark, just keep us in the loop. Okay, Mark?
Will do, David.
All right. And then Robert wanted to talk as well.
Thank you. I'll try and be as brief as I can. Firstly, can I apologise? My camera seems to have given up on me this evening. Just a quick update since the last meeting. I was able to report quite a success with Fix My Street last month. Unfortunately, that seems to have abated. Pretty much everything I've reported since then has been rejected, not bad enough. One of the ones they have agreed to sort out, though, is the pedestrian barriers outside SciTech, which have been broken for about the past year now, I think. They say it's going to be done within 28 days. I'd be pleasantly surprised because it's quite a big job, but yes, they have agreed to do that. My second point was between Wentworth Drive and Colne Close, there's a triangle of land with a footpath across, which I think the town council acquired from the developer.
Yep.
There are some there's the footpath itself has been adopted by NCC, but right next to the footpath there are some quite large trees which are in the process of starting to dig up the path. I've reported it to NCC through Fix My Street, but they haven't taken it on. But I would presume the trees are the responsibility of the town council, in which case it might be a good idea to have a look at those now before they start getting much bigger. I think it's another example of a developer badly designing their estate.
Yeah, no, putting trees close to footpaths is always a problem. Emma?
Yeah, I think we did. I think there was some clearing work done there because that was, is it the piece of land that the people wanted to buy, but we decided not to.
Adjacent to it, yes.
Yeah. So I think we did some work. We've already done some work on the trees to sort of get them into shape, because and the bushes around it.
It's the roots mainly.
The problem here is roots, not branches.
Which means removal.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Very quickly, it doesn't need to have removal of trees. As the Sheffield experience with their tree problem proved that you can get pavement surfacings that don't have to affect roots, and you don't have to remove trees to actually get it right. There are lots of other ways.
Right.
It's not. I think that we should always explore those rather than dive straight in of tree removal. No tree removal. Let's think about the alternatives. And there are some very, very good alternatives out there. And Sheffield, as a town, as a city, proved that.
Okay.
I think, just to say on that, I agree with you, Clive, about, we don't want to remove the trees. But because the footpath's NCC, I don't know whether they will put a different surface on there, or whether they.
Well, just to, I mean, this is we're in a sort of funny position at the moment with NCC practically no longer there. This is one of those things that we have to get in very early with, which goes back to David's market town thing.
Yeah.
This is the sort of battle we should be thinking about fighting with the rural market town idea. Getting these things.
It's not an agenda item at the moment, but Robert's doing a sterling job there, and we do have an issue coming up later on, which is the street warden.
Absolutely.
Yes, so very appropriate.
But I think it's just worthwhile. We are heading into potential quite big things, and we need to just be aware of that.
Yeah, no, you're quite right, Clive. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Robert. Thank you. Okay, so that was it for the public participation. Thanks to those, and quite a lot to talk about. Consideration of requests from interested parties. Beyond what we've already done, nothing. And then into reports. On myself, I'm in lockdown, so I'm not doing much more than you're seeing on the minutes here anyway. Emma is doing the majority of our work at the moment. A little bit of activity on local planning, but that's as a resident rather than for the town. District Councillor's report. Rupert, we've seen your report, but would you like to just take us through the highlights, or you're happy we read it?
Yes, please. Highlights. Paragraph A, Member Empowerment Fund. Because East Northants Council will cease to exist at midnight on the 31st of March, my fellow EN councillors, Jake Vals and Phil Stern, were under notice to use up our unspent balances fast, and we've done so. Phil and Jake have allocated their full amounts for Operation Laptop to provide computer equipment for needy pupils at Prince William School and at the Oundle Combined Middle and Junior School, whatever you call it. I had hoped to allocate mine as well, but the rules of the empowerment scheme limit the amount that any one councillor can give to one scheme to 3,000, which is more or less what Phil and Jake had. So I then, having touched base with the chairman of Volunteer Action, allocated my balance to Volunteer Action to enable them to buy up-to-date computer equipment to replace older equipment. Next, paragraph B, COVID vaccination facilities in Oundle, where a number of Oundle residents have raised concerns about the absence of vaccination facilities nearer than Stanground Peterborough. I ascertained that Oundle School have offered the use of their facilities to the Lakeside Oundle Medical Practice. So we can reasonably expect the discussions are underway to work out how this could be done, given strict requirements for controlling the temperature of the present vaccine. In parallel, I ascertained that our indefatigable MP has taken up the lack of vaccination facilities at Oundle with the NHS authorities. So I think we can expect some progress. Lastly, this ties in, I think, with paragraph 20, stop 158/05 of your agenda, Mr. Mayor, where the agenda invites the Town Council to approve a proposal to write to ENC and NCC to ask that there be no increase in council tax for the coming financial year. ENC and NCC will not be taking any decisions on council tax for that year. That decision will be taken by the Northamptonshire Shadow Authority. In fact, tomorrow, the Shadow Authority councillors will receive briefings on this budget and its stately progress to finality. I have nothing to add at this point, but we'd be very willing to answer any questions.
Okay, so very quickly, are there any questions? Because we have seen Rupert's report. No, we've got the agenda item later on about the council tax. Right. Well, thank you very much, Rupert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Right, so now we're moving on to town matters then, and then we've the email from East Northampton Council reference Tresham Garden Village Housing Needs Survey. Has anybody got any comments or input to that one? No, right. So,
well, I mean, sorry, Tony. Only to say that if you look at the little map on that piece of paper and where it's situated, we all know where it's situated, and there is no doubt that it will impact Oundle.
Yeah,
the development of that size will have significant consequence.
Yeah.
So we have to, as we know, we have to be aware of it.
Yeah. So we are. Thank you. All right, and then the next one then was to receive the report following the suggestion from Oundle School use as a vaccination centre. Jerry.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone has actually been to one of the vaccination centres yet. Well, my wife is a frontline NHS worker, so we went on Sunday so that she could be vaccinated. We went to the Thistlemore Medical Centre, which is in Millfield in Peterborough, and that was through our GP. So Claire had got in touch with her GP and pointed out that she was a frontline worker, and it was them that arranged for her to go and have a vaccination. I just like you to understand a little about just what's required in order to set up the vaccination centre. So we reckon there were about 30 staff there manning it, and they were running 6 streams of vaccinations, so 6 vaccinators, and there are 2 people to do that, one to do the data entry part and one to do the vaccination. And then, of course, you've got people looking after you whilst you recover, or you're observed to make sure there's no adverse reaction. You've got car park attendants. You've got people making sure that people are getting to and from where they need to be. Extremely efficient, very, very well done. We were in and out in 20 minutes. Absolutely brilliant. Now, bear in mind, of course, that they've got to get through. Well, we reckon they were getting through 300 to 400 vaccinations a day there, which is what they need to do because they've got to get through 1,000 in 3 days. Because the vaccine has only got a shelf life when it gets to them of 3 days. So they can keep it in a normal fridge. This doesn't have to be kept at very low temperatures, but they've only got 3 days then to vaccinate 1,000 people. So given that the constraint at the moment is not facilities, it is number of vaccines available, and the letter that Tony has shared that the Lakeside Health Group have explained that if we were to have a vaccination centre in Oundle, it wouldn't result in more vaccines being available. It would just be robbing them from elsewhere. I can completely understand Oundle residents' concerns about, that there isn't somewhere in Oundle. It will come in time when the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine gets out and it's distributed to GPs and it's distributed to pharmacies. But I do think it's actually pretty unrealistic to expect that we're going to have a 1,000 dose vaccination centre established in Oundle, which, let's face it, would be out of work in a week when it's done everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jerry. Anybody else? Yeah, Clive.
A fairly important point. I think I've had a number of, as we all probably have, of queries from people that have been phoning up the surgery 60 times, 70 times, trying to get through. When is it going to be my turn? I think the whole point of this is the community has a perception that the surgery is there for the community and not to be, how to get to stand ground to be vaccinated is a real problem. But I think it's the onus on the doctor's surgery that we should be pushing for. It's about communication, that the people that are getting frustrated because there is no information available to them about how to get it, when they're going to get it, when it was my turn. It's that, so it becomes very, very quickly becomes a personal problem when you're in your 80s and you're worried. It becomes a very black and white issue. Am I going to live? Am I going to die? It's those sorts of things, and it's down to us, I think, to actually try and get the surgery to send out information to say it's to do exactly what you've just said, Jerry. It's going to come. These are the reasons it's not happening, and how best to alleviate it.
Okay, let me just go around the table very quickly. We've got Ian, then Malcolm, then Jerry again. Ian?
I totally agree with what both Clive and Jerry have said. I've been in touch with Mike Richardson, the CEO at Lakeside, and he's asked me to tell everyone tonight that everything that Jerry said is accurate, but I think they understand all the points Clive made, and in a way this is more of a communications issue rather than anything else. And I think one of the problems is the Lakeside website and Facebook page are putting out contradictory posts from a central authority that are reflecting Northants policy. We're of course in Cambridgeshire, we're in the South Peterborough Primary Care Network, as I've now learned, and all of that confusion together with the fact that in Oundle there are people going through the GP but also through the hospitals, so there are two streams of people being pushed into the different places, leads to that sense of panic. And I think it just comes down to if the surgery could communicate better with people about what's going on. That would be our aim as a council, maybe. On that point, sorry, the CCG in Cambridgeshire, I've been in contact with them about something else, and they're aware of it, and they're aware of the contrary messages coming out, including various surveys that have been put out recently. So they're looking at it, but they've got 3 different teams that need to look into how they reply to it. So I think they're aware of it, and all the noise this weekend has helped, and Tom Purslove's intervention has helped, but it's not about Oundle wants it more than anyone else, it's just about communication.
Yeah, okay. Malcolm, and then Jerry again.
Probably Ian knows it more about than I do, but I looked on the website for Lakeside, and they said they were going to have 1 vaccination point in Corby for all the Lakeside practices. Do you know anything about it?
No, that's the problem. They've got a single website, and it then pushes into different directions. So a lot of the information on the website in Oundle is actually relevant for the Northants surgeries, including the 2 announcements they've made this afternoon that are contrary to everything they've said. And I think that's the problem, is someone sitting typing on a computer is generating problems, and it's not being headed off at the pass.
Yeah, okay. And then Jerry?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree completely with what Clive said. I mean, I hope I didn't imply that there was any criticism about people for being concerned and for asking questions and for saying, could we not have one in Oundle? You know, I completely understand that, but the reality is I don't think we're going to get one anytime soon. And we need to be making sure we're helping communicate the right message, which is, you know, we are getting through all of our vulnerable people. People are getting their vaccines. If people haven't got means of getting there under their own steam, there's Vision, Volunteer Action, there's church groups, and I'm sure, you know, there are other people as well who would be more than willing to help support them in getting there. So, you know, we perhaps need to be trying to reassure people that it's happening and they will be helped to make sure it happens rather than anything else.
That's right. A degree of calm. So we've got Clive and then Val.
Just that, I mean, Val is involved with volunteer action. I've spoken to a couple of volunteer action drivers, and they say they just can't get enough. There aren't enough drivers, and there aren't enough. You can only do one person at a time per lift, and all those sorts of things that are problematic at the moment. And it just needs, you know, we need to be able to communicate that. Obviously, the surgery knows this; they're aware of it, but they're not collating it and giving that information back to the public.
Yeah.
You know, what we need to do is reassure and have proper communication system, because everyone believes, I still believe in the old view of a doctor is part of the community. I still have that sort of Dr. Finley's casebook sort of mentality about doctors, but in fact they're not anymore. They're a business, and they've been moved away from community, and it's that sort of thing that worries people.
Yeah, I think there's very little we can do here other than encourage people to stay calm. But Val, just want a bit more?
Just quickly, I've had my jab. I was texted by the practice before Christmas and had it before Christmas. And my experience talking to all my age group that I know is that that seems to be their chosen method of linking you with the number that you have to phone. They're not which all the government stuff and everybody who comes on the television are saying you will get a letter when it is your turn. It is not a letter from our practice, it is a text. So I've told people to keep an eye on their texts, and several people I know have got through from doing that.
All right. Jerry again?
Yeah, just want to confirm that was the same in Claire's case. It was all done by text.
No. All right. So Ian, just so you've got the link in with Richardson, you know, if you can just get him the message back. It's all about communications. And
Will do.
You might say use Oundle Town Council's site, but that would only add to the confusion. You know, we've got to have Lakeside site as the single point of contact.
Absolutely. I've recommended different methods, but I'll do the same tonight.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Right, so moving on then, Clark's report. There's about 1,700 pages of it.
Yeah. I just added on the new council's meeting that I went to, and just added on the notes and the presentation from that, which were quite large. Quite interesting hearing how
it was
setting up the new town councils.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of complexities in there about the size of towns and so on. But too much for me. Anybody got any questions? The insurance thing comes up later on, does it?
Yeah.
Okay. So anybody got any questions on Emma's report itself? Other than we'll carry on then. So thank you, Emma. You know, if there's one person working overtime at the moment, it's quite impressive. Consider a request from a resident to fill the vacancy as path warden on the town council. This was from Tony Hoyle, wasn't it?
Yeah, when it says path warden, it doesn't mean pavement paths. It means the footpaths over fields and
okay, then what a shame.
And that sort of thing.
Help Robert
out. And that's what Neville and Sue used to do. Tony's said that if we want to recruit somebody, he's happy to do that.
Okay, well, we have a volunteer. We've got any points, Clive? Just quickly, I mean, once again, it's interesting. This falls back into David's market town thing. I mean, rights of way are being eroded all the time, and a path warden would be very, very useful for us as a council. I think the rural areas are being encroached on, and the trespass and everything else that goes with it are becoming issues. And I think that would be it'd be great to have someone like Tony.
Right, Ian.
Just a declaration of interest. I know Tony, but I think he'd be excellent at the job, and I think we should grasp it with both hands.
So we can do him as a co-opted member of the council, can we? And that Emma, he doesn't have to become a full councillor or anything.
No, he doesn't have to be a councillor. He can just be a resident that is going to.
Well, unless anybody's got any objections, I think Emma can write to Tony and say we're really grateful for that.
Okay.
Look forward to hearing from him at our next full council meeting. We can have a slot in there. Yeah, thank you. Right, consider the appointment of the police liaison officer. This request, I thought, cut a bit across JAG and what we were doing with police liaison at the moment. David, as one of our 2 JAG members, and Val the other one.
I was a volunteer for it, so I'm happy to be volunteering for it if you want.
Okay, I was a little bit concerned when I looked at the volume of work that might go through that post, of whether or not it needed to be one of the full-time staff or not.
Well, shall we try it out and see how it goes?
Yeah, or a bit of both, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it helps because I'm, with the emergency plan and all that stuff, it's going to help with that, which we're developing. I'm on JAG, so it makes sense.
Well, let's do it that way, Emma, and see how it goes. So we'll put David down, unless Val objects to that. We'll put David down. It's logical. One of the JAG members is in it. But as I say, it was a bit disappointing that request hadn't come through JAG, which is something.
Peter wants to say something.
So unfortunately, I've been putting my hand up all night, but of course nobody can see me, so it's a bit frustrating. I mean, I'm all in favour of police liaison committee member, but quite frankly, in regard to the police for this town and the attitude of the person that is the policeman in for this town, that is always in Wellingborough and far too busy to deal with Oundle, I honestly don't know if you'll actually get any response from it anyway. I mean, poor old Jake's been trying for months and months and months, and he still has not got anywhere near what we're looking for from a policeman who is supposedly for Oundle and not for Wellingborough, because he's always in Wellingborough and he's always too busy to come to Oundle.
Yeah, the thing I would add, Peter, from my previous time with JAG, is that I wouldn't at the moment want to blame the police on the ground themselves as much as their management and their funding. So
I think you should.
He isn't
the type of person that he is.
Yeah, he is not volunteering to go to Wellingborough. His bosses are taking him off our patch.
Well, okay, I'll leave that with you.
All right. So thanks very much, David.
That's all right.
Right, so we'll receive a letter from ENC reference Flettonfield as an asset of community value. So it's only that the previous one was expiring and we needed to renew it. David?
And I propose that we do renew it because all the reasons that we asked for it to be registered in the first place still apply, but probably a little more so.
Yeah. But rather than any discussion, has anybody any objection to renewing it?
No.
Jerry?
Just very quickly, just a quick report really, that's all. As liaison with transition out.
You went to the meeting, yes.
Meeting with transition out and Benefield Road allotments group. I mean, basically, they just asked for our support, and yes, for us to renew the claim of the ACV, and also to whether we can lobby any of the new North Hants councillor candidates to commit to the preservation of it for the community. And they had lots of ideas about, allotments, scout huts, memorial gardens, community orchards, green space, that sort of thing. So there's active engagement from the local community in terms of trying to make sure that we do keep that space. That was all.
Can I come in on that again?
Yes,
please,
yes.
As I understand, NCC are actually looking to try and hand back assets to the community in their new form. So it might be that we actually get Flettonfield back.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah. Okay, we've got Malcolm and then Emma.
Well, I went for a walk today and I tried to get into I was in the grounds by the parish, by the church in the Oundle School grounds, by the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
And there's guys putting big heavy chains on all the gates to stop people coming in. Well, that shows you how little green space we've got in this town for people. Today, where else could you walk? I think it's something I'd like the council to pick up with Oundle School, because there's no significant number of pupils there. Why are they locking those grounds? Why don't they just help the community out? Help the community out at this time when lockdown, with people trying to walk around and keep away from each other.
Okay, Emma, you were first, and then Ian.
Yeah, I'm just looking at about renominating it. I'm just looking at the link to the the website. Does this mean we've got to go through the whole thing again?
Unfortunately, that's the way I read it.
Yeah, that's what I was
That's
just
right.
Double check if there's a loophole we can get into, Emma, but it does unfortunately look like we've got to go through the whole process.
Okay.
All right. Ian?
Just touching on Malcolm's point, I've seen an email just before this started about that, and I'm happy to tell him what's what, but I can't do it in public. But there's apparently good reasons to do with trespass and criminal damage and stuff like that. So
okay, right. So if
I think we all have to help each other, don't we? In this time, that's the point.
Yeah.
So,
Val?
Well, there is a precedent here because it's happened in the past and we've objected and they were made to open the gates again.
Yeah, okay. So let Ian explain then what's gone on there. But yeah, we understand. We take it. It's not a right of way that we've got. It's a privilege, isn't it? Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Ian, if you could contact Malcolm and Val and give them an update. All right. Thank you. Right. So you're happy with that one, Emma? Then we'll put in the request again. Yeah. Right. Right, so we're on to now the request for ENC, NCC, and as Rupert pointed out.
Can I do this one?
Yes, please do, Peter.
Right. I mean, obviously, the way I looked at it, there's three things that I think that would benefit Oundle for. Firstly, I actually thought we were doing NNC as well, but that's neither here nor there. The idea of this proposal is not just to hopefully ask them to stop the increase in rates this year, because it's going to hurt an awful lot of people, not just in Oundle, but all over. And, Oundle should be now taking on more responsibility and acting for the people. And I believe this type of letter, whether it succeeds or not, could show the people of Oundle that Oundle Council think about them and want to help where we can. And this is a simple letter to say, please do not put our council tax up this year on the whole of Northamptonshire Council, because it's going to hurt more people than you actually think. I don't know, but most of you know that I'm involved with sort of food banks and things like that. And there is a growing need now in Oundle for people visiting food banks, for people not having the food to eat. And if they then put the council tax up on these people as well, with also the possible reduction in the government's, I can't remember what the actual thing is, where they're going to reduce another £20 a week from these people in April, if they don't stop it, they are going to be in real trouble. It's not going to help a lot. We might not get anywhere at all. But I think if we did this as a council, right, and we put it on all our possible communication networks, that we're actually trying to do something for the people, it would actually maybe give Oundle a bit more community feel. And also people would say, well, Oundle's not a council, is not the waste space. There is actually something they're doing. And I really do believe that's a way forward to show that Oundle councillors and the town of Oundle is supported by its councillors.
Okay, thank you. Just going around the table, any views in favour or contrary of that?
Oh, the only point is, I thought with this new sorry,
you go on, Malcolm.
Okay, I thought this new structure we're going to get more efficiency, and therefore the cost should go down, not up.
Yep, no, it should do. Yeah. And then Ian.
If my reading of the NCC proposals, or the Northants, whatever it's called, Northants proposals, where they harmonise everything, I think most properties now are going to find their council tax goes up reasonably significantly anyhow. So in which case that probably puts even more good cause behind a letter like this. And as Peter says, to do it publicly, so at least people can see that we're trying to do the right thing.
All right. Anybody opposed to the concept? No, right. So we've got a letter then. Do we have to write the wording of the letter out now, or are we happy for Peter and Emma to put something together and send it? We know that the view of it. sent.
I think it should come from you, Tony, not from
Okay,
me.
no problem. It can come from
Because
myself.
obviously you're the mayor. Just have a little bit more weight to it.
Yeah.
But I'm quite happy to talk to Emma about it, and then maybe you can, cross the
It's okay,
T's
Peter.
and
No,
dot the I's.
I can do that one. Right. So just we need to make a proposal. I'm proposing that we write this letter. I'm assuming, Peter, you're seconding it.
I'll second it, yeah.
Okay.
You can't see me, but I've got my hand up.
All those in favour? That's lovely. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Emma.
Can I just say thanks very much, all councillors?
No, it's a bloody good point, Peter. Right, then to receive...
Just picking up on what Rupert said.
Yes.
I'm assuming that we need to write to the unitary chief.
I think it only needs
Yeah,
to...
the NNC unitary chairman as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, to receive notes and feedback from the parish carbon footprint tool seminar.
Oh,
knowing the bit of a knot that we got ourselves into a while back with the Scout hut and the impact on carbon footprint and the gas bill for the QVH, I don't think we stand a cat and hell's chance on carbon footprint. But yeah, so we've seen the action. Is there anything, Emma, we need to worry about?
I didn't go. It was Ian who went. So.
Okay, Ian. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't quite what I thought it was. It's very interesting, and I can play with it right now, but I can't tell you about it. I'm sworn to secrecy until Friday. Basically, what they've done is they went through a lot of very detailed talks for 2 hours about their methodology. It's a snapshot of where they think Oundle's carb as a town and per household, our footprint is in terms of all the services we use and our actual consumption, and we can compare it to other parishes. It's nice, it's fun, it's interesting. I'm not quite sure how useful it's going to be. There's a few bugs they need to iron out, but once it goes live and public, there's actually nothing we need to do apart from play with it, and we can then use it to push discussions, but that's it.
So it's not about town council properties.
It's not that exciting, no. It's more about Oundle as a town. So it's interesting. It looks like we're slightly better off than Thrapston, but I can't explain why yet.
More modern houses.
And the A14.
Yeah.
They get flooded more as well.
Yeah.
There's no space.
All right then. Okay. Thank you, Ian. Then cheers. To consider becoming a member of the Rural Market Town Group. Right. So back into now David's item. Jerry, you've been quite a lot of this with the other bodies. Does what David's got there add to what we've already got?
It's difficult to say, really, not having had any exposure to it really yet. What I would say, though, is that we've got a very kind offer from David of a free membership until May. I can't understand any reason why we wouldn't take him up on that and see whether we feel it's a value and as he has pointed out, that there's a very minimal cost anyway. If we should we want to continue, so let's suck it and see.
Well, I think also, and Peter, I know you're not there, and David, I'll bring you in a moment. But in the rural group that we were looking at in Northamptonshire, I think what David's got might have some lobbying tools that we can actually use with our new unitary authority.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. I think that's right.
Completely. Yeah. David.
Yes, in terms of the Rural Services Network, we of course work with local authorities as well as local councils.
Yeah.
And we very much hope that the new Northants Authority will join us and we can all work together. Okay. It's really important that the rural voice is loud and consistent. And if there's two words that I could emphasise, it's probably those two.
Okay, thank you. And I do apologise. I realised I've got three Davids on the screen at the moment.
Yeah, sorry.
I was looking at one that's called Anne, but David Chappell, you had your hand up.
Sorry. Yes, well, we do have on the agenda a bit later on a report of the Rural Coordination Group meeting that took place last night. And of course, that, in a sense, there's a degree of overlap here because the Rural Coordination Group kind of centering around Oundle, but taking in a lot of the rural villages in this part of the north of Northamptonshire, is intending to act both as a sort of a lobby group and indeed a group to ensure good communication exists between those various parish and town councils. And it may well be that there are things that we could learn from the other David's group, and B, it may be that there are ways in which that group could complement what we're intending to do. So I'm certainly in favour of giving it the trial until May.
Yep.
And then we'll sort of see how perhaps between those two separate organisations we might actually make some progress.
Okay, thank you. David the third.
Thank you. The lessons that we've learned over the last 2 years of the neighbourhood plan, the fact that expertise isn't necessarily some of our strong points, and particularly in certain areas that when you get to nitty-gritties, having as many different groups that we can go for advice. We've got NCALC, but having a group like David's, I think, with what he's saying, his knowledge, etc., within that would have helped us a great deal. Yeah. If we had joined them earlier. I'm just saying I can't see the reason why we shouldn't be.
Yeah,
is not
join this group then.
Tony, can I just sorry again because you can't see me, so I'm having to interrupt occasionally. Speaking about David Inman, wouldn't it be a good idea, Emma, to actually invite him to the next rural consortium meeting that we have?
Okay, well,
so he's there and he can see what we're discussing.
With David on that to see whether he'd have the time to join you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the date and time, doesn't it? So I think that would be a very good idea.
I'm very interested to learn about your particular group because it's not a consistent pattern throughout the country. So the more we can learn about these initiatives and work with these initiatives, the stronger our hand. So if I'm free on that day, I'd be only too interested to come along. Yeah,
thank you, David.
That's a really good idea.
So if I can propose that we do join this group, then we've got a seconder. Yeah, so Clive was first, and then all those in favour.
Aye.
A no-brainer.
Lovely. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome to stay if you want to, and you can go now if you don't.
Well, I am married and I'd like to stay that way, so if it's okay with you. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thank you, David.
Good evening.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much.
We don't.
Right, on to the financial matters then. So we've got to approve the bank reconciliation, bank sheet, balance sheet and budget for December. Anybody got any problems with those?
No.
No. Okay then. So there's a proposal from David Chappell.
Actually, it was just a quick observation.
Oh, sorry, David.
Normally on our agenda, we get the figure for the monthly bank balance, and what we actually got is a blank, which I'm rather hoping doesn't mean that there's no money in the bank at all.
Yes, it means we've lost all our money. No, I noticed that, so I actually wrote it on my own, but obviously you can't see that. It will go on the minutes, but the bank balance is £563,480.46.
That would be an awful lot to have mislaid.
All right. Okay, so we're happy to accept those then? Yeah.
Right.
Is that the two Davids, one proposed, seconded, and all those in favour? That's lovely. Thank you. Payments for December. The proposition is to make them. Any problems with the payments?
And you had the updated.
Yes, we did.
Came out later in the day. So the total payments are £9,574.32, bringing a total with the direct debits to £40,513.93.
Okay. Has anybody got any observations or concerns in there? No. Okay then. So I will propose those. Seconded from David Fuller. All those in favour? Fine. Thank you. Receive the finance and general purposes draft minutes for the meeting of the 8th of December. I'm assuming the drafts because we haven't had a second meeting after them. Yeah, all right. So several of us were there, so they're received. And then receive the internal control check In fact, thank you for doing this, Jerry. Go on.
Yeah.
You talk
I
about
was
it.
going to say, Emma, just sorry, I haven't received anything for Q2 yet, which I was going to do.
Right, I'll speak to Paul tomorrow.
I haven't chased it, but then, you know, if you do it, I'll crack on with the next one as well.
Yeah.
Appreciate you doing that, Jerry. Cheers.
No problem.
Right, and then we've got this bloody long document about insurance cover. I love the COVID exceptions that have gone into it.
I mean, the things that we've got to work on are reading through it when I saw about the locks and what sort of locks we needed.
Yeah.
Thought about what locks we've got. That's why we've had a survey. Most of the locks are okay because they are fire exits, so they can stay, but we've just got to upgrade a few in Fletton House, the Courthouse and the QVH. And so Lisa's going to go back and get some quotes that she'll bring to the estates meeting.
All right.
The more complicated one is the bollards in the churchyard. That we're looking at quotes for those because we've got the risk assessment that I've put together with a health and safety consultant, speaking with the resources group at the church, but we've got to replace those bollards with not necessarily replace the bollard, but have a self-closing cap.
Yeah, yeah.
If the bollard gets taken out, there's a cap.
It automatically flaps down.
So again, Lisa's getting quotes for those at the moment.
Okay, so there's some expense there, but you know, I mean, what was good in that part of the letter was it said the onus is on the church.
Yes.
To ensure that they're safe at all times, aren't they?
And because they're the ones that are removing them, they've got to make sure that only an authorised person is removing them and putting them back. Their only concerns are that some of their people that do this find it difficult to lift out the bollard, but they're going to have to either find somebody else to do it for those people. So I'm still in conversation with them.
All right. Malcolm.
Yeah, just a quick point. I noticed on the report it said add window locks or screw up. Well, you've got to be careful that you don't contravene building regulations.
Yeah.
Often the windows are alternative exits, fire exits.
Yeah, I know. I think some of those I'm not keen on screwing up some of the windows, particularly some of the ones in the PH that you're going to have to be clambering all over to get in them. And so I would prefer we don't do that. And our insurance company haven't asked us to do that. But the lower level, like in Fletton House, make sure we've got the keys so we can lock those windows.
Yes. And somebody's got to find the tractor, haven't they?
Sorry?
Somebody's got to find the tractor.
No, yeah, we have got the tractor. Yeah, yeah, I have got the tractor now.
You have, right, good. Right, so in terms of approval here, do we need to take a vote on it or just nod?
Yeah, I mean, we are in this sort of 3-year, we've got 3 years, you know, before we have to go out to tender again. So it is just a formality, but just approving that the...
Okay, has anybody got any objections to approving it then?
No.
No, okay, so I'll propose it. Seconded, David Fuller. And then all those in favour? You got a nod from you, Peter?
Well, I just said aye.
Yeah.
All right then, thank you.
Well done, Peter.
Right, to receive the minutes of the planning committee meeting. David, anything new?
It was a very short meeting, nothing very remarkable, but I will just draw attention to one thing. That's the planning permission which ENC have granted up at Oundle Lodge. That's the Gents Farm out on the Stoke Doyle Road. Conversion of an agricultural building into a registered children's nursery. Because I think council might be quite interested to see that that initiative is coming forward. And I think I can't remember now the exact number of children, but it's quite a significant number that it'll be able to cater for. So it'll be interesting when it becomes available to the town.
Yeah, so traffic management and parking will be an interesting issue and where that is.
Yes, there's a new entrance onto the road. The highways didn't seem to have any real issues with it. And as I say, it's got through. We made some observations about actually the access and so on. There's adequate parking up there.
Okay. And you did mention earlier, David, that the local plan 2 was going to be rubber stamped at the end of this month.
Well, I was at a meeting I'm going to report on in a minute or two, the Rural Coordination Group meeting last night. And Jake Bowles was there wearing his hat as an ENC stroke NNC for the time being councillor. And he informed us that it was coming before the relevant committee on, I can't remember the exact date, 26th, 27th, somewhere around about then, where he was telling us that essentially they're going to say, yeah, we're all happy with it, despite all our observations about the inadequacy of that document so far as Oundle is concerned.
Right. Okay. I'll have a read of that myself and see what we need to do in terms of attendance and input from town council. Yeah. Thank you. Right. Communications working party. So some great documents there.
Thank you very much. The main thing I think is just to we talked last meeting, I think, about the idea of putting 3 sort of articles in Oundle Life, and the first one maybe March, maybe April, depending on the deadlines, if we can get any good photos, but the one focusing on the sort of estates team, as it were, and getting finance for that, really. I suppose that and the next 2 articles in the year, just to sort of suck it and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I asked Ian, as I understand Oundle Life, I mean, I advertise with them every month, but I'm not sure if they're actually going to be able to deliver the Oundle Life magazine in February and March, and I've actually dropped out for 2 months, and they've accepted that because they don't know if they're going to be able to deliver the magazine in those 2 months either. So would this be in sort of from April, May?
I think April would probably be ideal if we can get some good photos.
Yeah.
Emma's had conversations about getting in for March, but it's got to be turned around tomorrow or the day after.
And it's just the weather's not great to get some good photos.
April would be
the other
better.
thing is, you said three editions per year. Are they full pages, half pages?
I think as many pages as we can get.
2 to 3 pages.
Oh, so at £810, that's good value for money because I know how much I spent. You can only go by what you actually know, can't you? So
it's because
for
she explained that obviously the magazine is paid for by all the people that advertise in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not necessarily advertising; we're adding content to get us in there. But Peter, is it because of COVID with regards to delivery?
Yeah, I mean, I question them because obviously they're supposed to be delivering now in January. They're not delivering for the February issue, and they might not be able to deliver the March because although they have got a delivery service, right, it's dependent on whether that delivery service is allowed to come out. This is not an essential service.
Right, yeah.
We do need to check that. Okay, the principle then of this 810 budget, I'm assuming everybody's happy with it. Yeah, and if so, I'd like to propose it that we put the budget together. It's got a seconder.
I'll second it. You can't see me, but I'll put my hand up.
Seconded it then, right, and all those in favour?
Aye.
That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Just a quick point to Ian, if it's possible. Ian, is that that draft you sent us, the 3-article draft that came through?
I sent you 2 for the Oundle Life one.
Yeah, is that the one we're talking about now? The one with the final picture of the boardwalk on it.
Yes.
And the boardwalk picture is under an article about cycleways.
That's the Oundle Advertiser one.
Oh, right, okay. But I was just, are we talking about that later or now? Is that something?
Sorry.
We're not planning to
in
talk about
terms
that.
of the editorial content of it, the conversation goes outside of this meeting.
Right, okay.
The editorial bits can't wait for
one other thing. I'm assuming, Ian, that they'll actually put the artwork and everything together in a proper format. rather than what we get in the Oundle Advertiser.
Yes,
Yeah, no,
yeah, she told me
absolutely.
that they would do that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's all right, because I mean that's part of the cost.
Ian, shall I just say, shall I go back to her tomorrow and say we're not going to go with the March? We're going to,
April.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, lovely. Right, Peter, Peter and David, the Rural Coordination Group.
Well, I think David has a lot more information on this last night. I mean, I got in half an hour late because I thought the meeting was starting at 7:30 and it started earlier. So I'm doing really well with meetings this week.
Yeah, we noticed you at the QVH meeting.
We did formulate more of what we want, and I know David has a lot to say about it. So I'm going to leave it to him.
Right. Well, I'll try not to say too much. But yeah, I found myself unexpectedly thrust into the chair because I happened to fortunately notice that it was 7 o'clock just before it got to 7 o'clock. And so I was there on time. As were representatives from Aldwinkle, Barnwell, Bennefield, Cotterstock, Hemmington, Luddington and Thurning, which is one council, Lilford, Wigsthorpe, Thorpe A Church, which is another, Pilton, Stoke, Doyle and Waddenhoe, which is yet another, Titchmarsh, Glapthorne, Wood Newton, and 3 representatives from Oundle, myself, Clive and Peter, were also present. At the original meeting, we'd set ourselves a task of identifying specific aims and objectives that we could actually structure ourselves around, and then invited parishes to put forward concerns. The theory had been that people would get back to us before the meeting. It didn't quite work out that way, but actually in the end it worked very well because the representatives who were there were all able to contribute towards that discussion. And in broad terms, what's emerged from that is that we will probably be having a meeting next month. By that stage, somebody, and I've got an awful feeling that somebody is actually me, will have drawn up the aims and objectives and a preliminary list of the sort of concerns that have emerged. Those concerns are not going to surprise anybody very greatly. Highways and traffic issues were looming large. Footpaths, incidentally, bearing in mind our discussions earlier, cycleways and bridleways, flooding issues, each one of which is featured on our agenda tonight, planning issues, and so forth. And I think the message that came through was that we saw the benefit of what might be termed collective action, but also the benefit of acting as a forum whereby Council A could communicate to Council B, because there are times when it's clear that what happens is that we end up reinventing the wheel because we don't know that somebody else has been pushing the same thing for 6 months before we have. So we're going to try and pull that all together. And then as a follow-up to the meeting next month, the idea will be to set up a meeting with a new North Northants authority so that we can actually, A, let them know that we exist, B, give them some information about what are our present concerns, and C, make it clear to them that we want to be involved as a group in such things as future strategic planning and so on. Emma very kindly managed to knock up some minutes, which she's already circulated to me. I haven't actually managed to go through them yet, but I'll get back to Emma about those. And then I suggest that we circulate those not only to the people who were there, but of course to all members of this council. It was noticeable that Oundle was a council with 3 representatives, although I was there kind of double-hatted because I was also there for Glapthorne. And I did say that maybe that wasn't appropriate because we didn't want to be too Oundle-centric. The only person who then spoke actually thought that it wasn't a bad idea that Oundle had more representation because we were so much bigger than everybody else, which I suppose is a relatively fair point. So one of the things that we may have to look at is whether there needs to be any kind of limit on numbers from any one council or not. But that'll be a matter for discussion on the next occasion. I think we also took the view that things needed to be relatively flexible. People could represent their respective councils one month and then somebody else another month. And that in terms of the groups that may in due course liaise with the unitary authority, clearly we don't want just one fixed body doing that, because we need people who have the expertise or the particular drive and concern about an issue to be part of whatever group actually gets engaged on specific issues. But it was a very useful meeting, and all went very well, I think. I don't know whether Clive, you were there. Peter, obviously you were there as well, and Emma was very carefully taking the minutes. So I don't know if any of you want to add anything.
Just a quick add on that it's interesting because everything that's happened tonight has almost been an overlap of the sort of discussion we had last night. So it's really immediate that the concerns of rural England are the same everywhere. You know, there was a discussion about police liaison, which has come up tonight, highways, bus services, all the things that we find problematic here, being rural area, are the same everywhere. And I think the connection with David with the rural market town thing has been incredible, because I think as we've already said, their expertise coming into this will give us some jump off points as a lobby group, as a forum, of everything else. I mean, I think
it's really great news to see so many of the villages are coming together.
Yeah, I think it's all gonna. I think if we keep going with it, which I know we will, you know, we're pushing a sort of semi-open door with Northants Authority, and if we're there right at the very beginning, telling them that we are a pressure group, that there is a voice to be heard from the rural community, then I think we're in with a good chance.
Well done, well done.
Can I?
Sure.
Again, because unfortunately you can't see me. But I mean, basically, I think that David and Clive dead right. We did have a very good meeting last night. There were a lot of views put together, and you're dead right, Clive, and so are you, David. That everything that Alan said tonight really is expanded to the whole of the rural community and the villages in this area. And I think if we can keep that together and keep those people interested, moving forward as a larger rural community with a voice as one, when we go to NNC and we sit with them and we talk about all this, then I think we might have a lot more influence than we do as just Oundle Council. I think the whole area could be enlivened with this type of organisation. I'm really happy that it's going forward like this.
All right. Okay. All right. So moving on then. So we've got correspondence for information only. So we've got received the employment law newsletter. Yeah. Helps you with the sleepless nights again, and receive the winter edition of the Village Viewpoint. Yeah. Thank you. Anything from those? Otherwise, we'll move on then to the closed session. Emma, I never remember the procedure for getting into a closed session, but you'd have to unmute yourself first and then...
Can I propose that you go into closed session pursuant to Standing Order 3C?
Sorry,
sorry, you cut out then, but David, you've proposed it.
I was proposing that we went into closed session.
Jerry, did you second?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Lee and Robert, unless there's anything else you want to add at this point, we'll need to take you out offline.
Thank you. I'll remove myself.
Thank you.
And Lee?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Lee.
All right. Okay.
Right, I'm just going to pause to start the recording again.
All right then. So we're agreed that we'll write to the tenant involved, and we'll do a letter to the solicitor as you've mentioned on the second one.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Right, any other relevant matters for report only?
Yeah, sorry, David, do you want to go first?
No, it's all right, Peter. It's probably easier if you go because we'll never know whether you want to come in or not.
Oh, okay. Actually, this is not. Well, this is a relevant matter. I'd like to say thank you to Jerry because of his intervention when we were looking at the money from ENC to go towards the paths and the bicycle ways. He suggested that we might try and get that money used for computers in Prince William School and OPS.
Yeah.
With Phil and Jake's help, I have now got all that sorted, and hopefully Jake's money is going to go to OPS and Phil's money is going to go to PWS. So if it wasn't for Jerry thinking about that I hadn't thought about it, I thought it was a good idea to get Jerry to have some money for his walkways and bikeways, we wouldn't have done it. So thank you very much, Jerry.
Peter.
All right. Just going around, David was coming in with one. Is Val and David, the other David, do you got a point on Peter's comment there, or is it something completely different?
My point is, sorry, Val.
I was just going to say that as of this week, I gather that all bridleways, of which we have a number, are now going to be designated as footpaths and must be kept only as footpaths, which might make a difference to some of the issues that we've got in play, and to places like Herne Road and the Herne. They're going to have to slightly redefine what a footpath is, I believe.
Right, okay. So you managed to get in ahead of David then on that one. It was a different subject. But go on. Let's do David Chappell, then David Fuller.
Right. Well, can I kind of get my own back on Val in this sense? At the last meeting, we agreed to donate a whole load of our old computer equipment to Volunteer Action.
Yes.
And if I understood what was being said earlier, they're now getting rid of our old equipment that we gave them because they're now getting some spanking new equipment.
They don't even want
Are they
it
going
now.
to give it back to us, or
Yeah, they haven't even had it yet. They just don't want it now. They said thank you, but no thanks.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, I understand now.
Do you want me to explain? Would it help?
Yeah. Well, go on, Val. Yes, please.
Because we didn't know. We were glad to accept, but it was obviously going to have to take some effort to make them usable again and whatever. Rupert came along with this money of his, which we can only be used on a new project. So getting new computers was a way of having Rupert's money. So I had to come clean about that. It put us in a difficult position.
Yeah.
We thought we'd better have the money. We might not get any more.
All right, just to tie that corner up then, Emma, have we got another home for our old computers, or is David going to put a suggestion in here?
No. Not at the moment, no. They are still just sitting in our storeroom,
all right.
waiting to be probably.
And we give them to the schools.
They don't want old stuff. They're
PCs, aren't
they?
No, health and safety. Health and safety would be the reason why.
Okay.
Just going on about the money. One of the things that has changed in my role at work is that now I deal with, actually, I do what's called a personal shopper service for schools, where I actually find the best quote for computers. So I have relations with
excellent
companies that provide computers for schools. So whether we are able to buy the computers or whether the school wants to buy it through their system, if we were to buy it, I know where to go to get the best deals, basically.
All right.
Maybe we can talk about that on Friday.
I'm happy to be asked to say, here's the budget, go and tell me what you can get for it. And we also know what works in schools for doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes the schools don't. So,
okay. So for Friday's discussion then, I'm pleased that we've managed to get it on the agenda then, is an extra spend, and we'll talk about that on Friday. David Chappell.
Right. Well, the other one I wanted to mention was flooding. I was one of those who on the 23rd of December was trying to come back from work to Glapthorne. got as far as just beyond the roundabout by the service station at Warmington and ran into an enormous queue. And given the amount of water that I'd already driven through, it struck me that perhaps there was flooding at Elmington again. So I tried different ways of getting to Glapthorne. Well, I won't bore everybody with the story, but 2.5 hours later, I abandoned the car and managed to get somebody with a very large sort of truck to actually get me through the flood water and get me home. But it's the flooding at Elmington that worries me. That's the second time in not such a long period of time that that road has been rendered effectively impassable because it drains so badly, and or the flood water comes straight off the fields and onto it. I'm not sure what the explanation is, but I think that as a town council, we should be lobbying the highways to actually take a proper look at this and get it addressed, because it's an impossible situation. It actually cuts Oundle off completely.
Yeah. Okay, Jerry.
I'm just my understanding is that they have done that. They did some quite significant works to stop it happening again. What I suspect has happened is they put their new culvert in 2 years ago, and it's since filled up with all sorts of crap, and no one's ever maintained it, and therefore it flooded again. I suspect it's a maintenance issue. I would imagine. I believe. I may be completely wrong, but that's my suspicion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably similar to the issues that was mentioned in Mark Quigley's presentation, which I thought was rather good. I mean, whether it's part of our duty to go and check these things, that's what we're supposed to do. But is Elmington in our range? That's the thing. But if it's going to affect Oundle, then perhaps we should have a look and see what it's like.
Yeah, Clive.
Well, once again, Jerry, I mean, thanks for that. I mean, I think the important thing is that it was done 2 years ago, and they did block off the road, and they spent an enormous amount of money doing it, and it's just rubbish. Filled it up again. But the point is, this is another one of those liaison push things that we've got to do, is to say it's all very well doing this, but if you don't maintain it, if you don't keep it going, then it's absolutely pointless, and that's a real waste of taxpayers' money. We should be able to lobby those sorts of issues with the new council and say, but you're just frittering away money again. Just have it's like cleaning the gutters out on your house, isn't it? If you do it every year, you don't get any problems. Simple as that.
Yeah. So I think it is one of these items for this rural group again, because that whole, as David describes, the problem of trying to get across to Glapthorne is that river cuts the route, and it doesn't matter. At times, it doesn't matter which road you take up there, you'll find it's flooded.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as we get into more and more of this flood issue, that we need a bigger group to lobby to get something done, because it will cost a lot of money, whatever they do.
But I actually went as far as beyond Corby in an attempt to get to the A14, to get to Thrapston, to come into Oundle that way.
Yeah.
And then it was flooded beyond Corby, and that's the point I just gave up.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear this, but I just went through Tanser and got bypassed it, no problem.
Yeah.
Thorpe was flooded today as well.
Val.
Well, I was just going to say the word unprecedented should be used here. The one that's very fashionable at the moment. Unprecedented floods.
We're allowed to be witty. All right then. Well, sort of, Jerry, go on.
Just a very, very quick one. Emma and I have both had copies of a detailed quote now for doing the cycle way 1 works up on Clapham Road. And it's in budget, so we should have the money to do it. So I haven't ploughed through the pages and pages and pages of information we were given at 4 o'clock this evening, but when we next meet, we should have a proposal that we're asking for approval to spend the monies and go and do that work.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
Lovely. Good. And on some good news then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, everybody's looking extremely healthy, so I'm very pleased with that. And generally speaking, Oundle seems to be a very healthy town, so we're lucky in that respect. I see our new news agent, is sort of opened and seems a very friendly chap. So I'm pleased that that's going well as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you all for attending. And Peter, I can't see your face, but I'm sure you're grinning. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot then.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.